Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our webinar tonight. My name is Jenny Pearson. I'm an Education Officer for the Primary Health Network. Tonight, our webinar is New Streamlined ADHD Co-Management Model. Our presenters tonight are Penelope Maxwell, who is a consultant pharmacist in paediatrics and mental health for Hunter New England Health, Dr. Elke Hull, who is a general paediatrician specialising in ADHD and child protection at the ADHD service at John Hunter Hospital, and Tracy Kirkwood, who is the coordinator of ADHD co-management at Hunter New England Kids.
Jenny, we're just having trouble hearing you. Okay.
Sorry about that. I don't know why. I'm hoping I can hear you, so I'll hand over to you now. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and thanks, Jenny, and hello everyone who is online. I'm Elke. I'm one of the general paediatricians that work here at the ADHD and Co-Management Service, and I'm going to start off today. Firstly, oops, how can I move that forward, Jenny? Yeah. Not sure why that has. Okay, right, thank you. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we are having our webinar on today, the Awabakal people. I would also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands in which you work on and live on, and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that are participating in the webinar. I would also like to pay my respects to the elders, the past and the present, and celebrate the diversity of the Aboriginal people and their ongoing culture and connections to the land and the waterways. I would also like to let everyone know that I am an Aboriginal woman, and I'm from Kamilaroi country out west New South Wales, and this is my beautiful nation, which is the Warrumbungles National Park. Okay, so some objectives for our talk today. So we're going to talk about the ADHD and co-management service and how the model of care has come about. We really want you to know that there's been lots of changes in co-management, particularly over the past year, and that it's new and it's a lot easier than previous times. And Penny's going to talk about the advocacy around the co-management legislation and the new prescribing. And this will link into medications and the safe and how effective the medications are. And then Trace will talk about the co-management service and how it works. So we've also got a second talking in September that is around the diagnosis and treatment, and it will be more in depth around ADHD and the treatment. So today is more around the co-management service. As we all know, the traditional model of care that has been happening is that single specialist clinicians have been treating ADHD for many years now. This is mainly the paediatricians and some child and adolescent psychiatrists. This involved diagnosis and stimulants prescribing in outpatients, which would require multiple general peds outpatient appointments for the diagnosis and starting stimulants, and then 6 monthly reviews for stimulant medication until they were 18 years old. And when we look at ADHD, it's the most common neurodevelopmental disorder in children and adolescents, and the prevalence you can see is 5 to 8% internationally and 6 to 10% here in Australia. And that feeds into why our outpatients and ADHD care has come to a standstill. There's been a bottleneck in our system, in our general pediatric outpatient system, and the follow-up appointments are clogging up our pediatric appointments and not allowing new referrals to be seen. This has resulted in enormous wait times, frustrated and burnout healthcare systems, our paediatricians as well as GPs, and mostly our parents as well, who have children who are not being able to access the much needed care they need. And when we think about the diagnosis and treatment and best model of care for ADHD children, it's a multidisciplinary approach, and the system now does not allow that to occur. So in 2019, the Henry Review was done, given the crisis that we'd been put in, and it reflected that traditional model of care, and it showed that 50 to 70% of kids in outpatients were ADHD, children with ADHD. This limited the access for new patients to be seen. Our system is overwhelmed. We got clinician and patient burnout and patients missing access to care. It was noted that there was barriers to accessing treatment, including not just the patients, but legislation and policy, which reflected the whole system drowning. So the Ministry of Health gave funding for H&E Kids ADHD project, where we all work. There's a clinic set up here in Nash Street in Wallsend, and we see kids here, as well as we have an outreach arm which has been started over the past few months. There's a multidisciplinary team that work here, and then we also have the general peds team at the John Hunter Hospital who are seeing kids with ADHD. So what we're aiming to do and what we are doing is that we're trying to get children who are in the general peds already in the system into co-management. Our clinic is also putting our children with ADHD into co-management, which is where GPs come on board with the ongoing prescription and support of these patients, which is allowing room for general pediatrics to have open appointments and more children that, how do I go back? Previous, and more children that are on the referral wait lists and are sitting within your clinics can be seen. We were talking about this earlier, and we have around 100 kids that have been seen through our clinic at the moment. And if, in theory, they can all go on to co-management, that allows 2 appointments a year to be freed up, which equals about 200 general paediatric outpatient appointments that is freed up each year for new children on the referral wait list and who's being referred to be seen. And that's just the 1.2 paediatricians here at the ADHD and co-management clinic. So there's been a lot of changes in ADHD co-management over the past year, and I think us talking to you tonight, we really want to reflect that. There's been a lot of feedback from families, GPs and paediatricians, and consulting with the regulatory bodies around the PRU and Medicare. And there's been significant review and change to try and make it easier for all people involved and for patients to be co-managed. So there's fewer steps, it's more flexible, and it's easier to support GPs, paediatricians and patients. And it's been a huge year, and Penny and Tracy, they don't want me to say this, but they've been huge in making this happen. They'll be very humble about it, but they've been extraordinary. And on top of that, the ADHD co-management community pathways has also been updated if anyone's not been on there recently. So this is our model of care. And so when a GP suspects someone has ADHD, a referral to H&E Kids is made. During this referral process, it's really important moving forward to give a child who might have ADHD the best chance possible and to support their referral as well, is to note that you're willing to co-manage, and also to include any relevant reports. So this can be from school, OT, or psychology, or other allied health assessments. And also on the Health Pathways website, there's SNAP questionnaires that we find really important and helpful. And we also use the Vanderbilt, which is quite easily accessible online and free. That is a symptom screener for ADHD. The paediatrician will see and assess in the context of a multidisciplinary team here at the ADHD clinic. The child, if meets criteria and parents are supportive, will start on psychostimulant medication. And an established response and tolerability to the medication will happen, which likely takes around 3 months' time, with review twice in that time. And then once the patient's considered clinically stable, referral to co-management occurs. When the child is considered ready for co-management, a letter is sent to our co-management team for the GPs, and a diagnosis. The letter includes a diagnosis of the ADHD, the medication and doses, the permitted increased dose without contact, a review time frame. Most of my review times is 18 months, but it varies with paediatricians. It can be from 12 months up to 2 years. You do not need another referral back into our system. Each child that has seen us can see us at whatever clinical time you have requested. So if you think earlier than 18 months, we are happy to see them within that time. And then the last thing is that we're, as a paediatrician and the specialist, we are happy to participate in the co-management. This is the e-referral system that you're probably more familiar with than I am, but we just wanted to note that down the bottom now there, it's implemented that you're willing to participate in co-management. You can see there it says shared care. Shared care is an older term for co-management, and you have to click yes or no. And it's important, if you're happy to be part of co-management, to click yes. This is an example of a co-management letter once a patient is stable. I'll give a bit of time for you guys to read that, but essentially it's that the paediatrician's happy to support co-management, a review time in 18 months' time, a current dose, and also a dose increment and a maximum dose that has been requested, the monitoring considerations, and the specialist team contacts if you, as the co-management GP, needs to contact the service or need any support. Within those dose recommendations, it's expected that the GP uses their own clinical discretion and increases the dose if required. But if the increased doses, if the GP would like support around these increased doses, we're absolutely happy to be contacted. So the co-management service, we really want all the GPs to know that it's a safety net and it's supporting GPs, paediatricians and families into this new model of care. And there's aspects where there's support from the new clinic and the new model of care for patients to go into co-management. The co-management service is also playing catch-up, so those children who are already in the system under a general paediatrician and have been for years, and supporting them into the co-management model, and also thinking about the future and how we consider that all referrals from now on are considered to be co-managed from the beginning of the referral process. So I'm going to hand over to Penny, and she's going to talk about the policy and legislations of psychostimulants. Okay, thank you very much, Elkie. That was great. All right, so what has been happening around policy, I'm Penny, sorry, the pharmacist, so is policy and legislation. There's been so many changes, and that's at a federal and a little bit, and also a state level. So it's been a bit of a moving feast. There's been a Senate inquiry, there's been changes in the application process, especially through SafeScript policy changes. There's draft legislation. And I guess the thing we're going to focus on is where that all comes together, which is co-management and involvement of GPs in management. So this was a really comprehensive Senate inquiry last year, and I don't have time to go into it, but it's got lots of stuff about models of care in other countries and other states. And I just wanted to bring your attention to one of the recommendations, which is it was clearly recognised that GPs and scope of practice needs to be expanded and supported to support patients and families with ADHD management. In terms of New South Wales, historically, it's been very regulated and very heavy clinical oversight by New South Wales Health. It also, as Elkie was talking about, is generally being specialist managed only, I guess, and we think about the numbers of up to 1 in 10, but probably conservatively a bit less than that. There just simply isn't, the maths doesn't add up. It's just too much to be managed purely by specialists, and that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. Other states have recognised that and moved on a while ago, but as a pharmacist coming in, I looked at all the requirements, especially in our older co-management model, but also just generally, and just tried really hard from my background of over 20 years in child and adolescent mental health, but I was also a dispensary manager at the John Hunter, and I've been involved in statewide formulary projects and all of that, and I was just like, something's not adding up. What am I missing here? So because the system matched a really high-risk drug and a high-risk drug management plan. And so, for example, with clozapine that I've been quite involved with in the UK and here, it's a very high-risk drug. I kind of joke, how many ways do you want to kind of kill someone? It's so effective and wonderful, but we match that risk with systems to manage it. Arguably, the systems around psychostimulant management are as stringent, if not more. So as a pharmacist who looks at that and just goes, okay, yes, it's a drug, there's some risk, but something's not adding up. What is this? So the question is, what risk are we managing, and do the systems match it? And kind of think of that saying that the punishment match the crime. So a bit of theory is, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but pharmacists love a Swiss cheese model explanation of medication safety systems. And we get a lot of evidence from the aviation safety, actually, because that you really can't have systems fail. It's basically no one system is fail-proof, and each will have its flaws, and when all of the issues line up, then an adverse event kind of happens. So medication safety management needs to be a systems-based approach. Education is one slice of cheese, as you were, but it's actually very weak. It's quite a holy piece of cheese. I just want to bring, I think sometimes it's overlooked, what one of the biggest aspects of risk management is there. In fact, it's so omnipresent we often forget it exists, and the law is a huge risk management, even including my role as a pharmacist and your role as a GP is written into law as well. And that is part of managing risk. That was part of separating medicine and pharmacy, was double check mechanisms. So let's talk about the law. We'll start with the federal. I won't delve into it. Some of you will be happy about that, and some of you will be very sad. I know Tracy is crying. But there is a hell of a lot of regulation. Australia's got a lot of high quality systems, so you can probably think of the TGA as one. So there is, I'm probably going to dive into the poisons list, so the medicine schedule. This is probably one of the biggest tools or mechanisms by which risk management with medications is managed. It looks at manufacture, it looks at a whole bunch of things, but I'm going to focus on individual medications. This is going to come up later, but while we're at this federal stage, I want to bring your attention to the fact that the other huge federal aspect of health is Medicare, and that is federal. And in terms of medications, that really simplifying it, but it's about subsidising, the federal government subsidising treatment for the patient. Right. So if we look at the poison standard that I was talking about, as you go through different schedules of medications, so schedule 1 to 4, risk is increasing. It's not just toxicity. There could be a whole bunch of risks associated with it. But generally speaking, there is increasing mandated checks and balances. So, for example, do you have access to a pharmacist versus it needing a prescription, etc. I think as the numbers go up, it's often misunderstood what Schedule 8 is. So in terms of toxicity, you're kind of going to Schedule 4, and that's kind of the end of the line for some of the most risky medications are Schedule 4. For example, clozapine. When you get to Schedule 8, it is all about abuse, misuse, and diversion risk. So that doesn't mean that it is inherently a more dangerous thing. It's just that it has that risk. So, and stimulants are a Schedule 8 medication. Oh, sorry, all right. So just to simplify it, so we're federal, you've got the poisons list, you've got all of the evidence and assessment. Where is it going to be scheduled? That is not a law. You can't prosecute or you can't really enforce that. It's enacted by the states. So, for example, if something might be illegal federally, but until that is enacted by the state, like chronic was illegal, but it wasn't illegal in New South Wales till the law came through, basically. So in New South Wales, the big chunks of legislation are these two. They're monitored, informed by, enacted and also drafted and a large part written by New South Wales Health. And the area of that is the Pharmaceutical Services branch, and they're the people that you will do your applications to for psychostimulant management. So I hope that that helps kind of orientate you to the whole legal system. So if you look at, and the role of the Pharmaceutical Services branch is to look after the public for lots of different aspects of risk. So let's look at, this isn't just psychostimulants, but also Schedule 8 medications generally. What are some of the things that they do? So processes about abuse and diversion. For example, one pharmacy, that is so that you can't have multiple scripts in lots of places getting them dispensed all the time. So that's why there are those rules. The dispensing intervals, so you can't get the medication dispensed all at once. The quantity handwritten in words and figures, so you can't change 10 tablets to 100. It doesn't matter if you have 20 milligrams written in 20, but it has to be 10 and 10 in words and figures in terms of the quantity. That's about abuse and diversion. Maximum doses, and then we've got safe scripts that I'll talk about. Then if you look at it, what they're doing is they can't specify diagnosis, who can diagnose, but they can link that to the drug supply processes around it. So, I mean, you might see that with some medications that a specialist might, for Medicare purposes, remembering that's federal, might need, the first dispense might need to be associated with a specialist. That's what those things are about.
And we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't talk about the elephant in the room, that this is a very high emotion topic. And I've been in child and adolescent mental health over 20 years, and it's almost like a moral issue rather than a medicine issue or a medicine issue. And healthcare professionals are certainly not immune to that. And I guess sometimes you have to wonder a little bit, policies occasionally taking a little while to catch up, if it because it's such a hot topic, I guess, culturally. So there can be, and you have to address it. If you don't address it, it will be affecting things, and that is 100%. And I've got the elephant sat down because it's been there so long, and it probably will be for quite a while. We can't talk about risks without talking about what are the risks of not treating. And I know this is, so I like this. It's a really great forest plot, basically summarising some of the outcomes of using stimulants in ADHD. With the forest plot, if the diamond has kind of cleared that middle line, then it shows significance roughly. So is clear benefit associated with academic outcomes. Pretty clear benefit in preventing accidents and injuries as well. Now, look, this is pretty marked, the impact on prevention of mood disorders. So having concurrent mental illness is the norm, not the exception. And we can go into that more in our next talk, which I hope you will come to. Accidents and injuries, so criminality, so kids looking for drugs, sex, rock and roll is very ADHD thing. But medication, stimulants help prevent that, so the secondary outcome. Substance use disorders, this is a big one, that actually treating patients with stimulants is probably one of the best things you can do to stop them using and abusing substance misuse in later life. It's actually protective against suicidality, if anything. However, what's really concerning is the high levels of suicidality in this population, and then traumatic brain injury. And the effect size, it's not just a little bit. I wish, it's so easy with these meds. They're so much more effective than any other medication in mental health that we use. And the evidence base for these medications is up there with any of the biggest cardiology trials. It's a very big, they're very effective medications. So there's been a lot of concerns, and fair enough, but most of those over time have been really either disproven or there's certain things around it. There's absolute contraindications, basically. There's not many. I'm trying to think of what they are. Certainly not saying there's no risk, but we're just like, is the risk matching the systems is all. So height, no, largely growth in height is unaffected, but that's something that the paediatricians and yourself will be involved in keeping an eye on. It's safe in terms of cardiac, or just not compared to a lot of the other drugs I deal with, I guess. Suicide, we talked about. Psychosis, it's complex, but it can be protective, and tics also is not a contraindication. We'll send this out. This is a statement from the Children's Hospital in Westmead and the John Hunter Children's Hospital. Basically, so many kids were not getting treatment because people were referring them for a cardiology review first, and it just kind of doesn't match the reality and the evidence base. So we'll send this out, but it's not a high-risk cardiac drug. We're not saying there's no risk, but certainly it's within GP and general paediatrician scope of ability to manage. So I use, and we kind of encourage the seatbelt analogy when it comes to risk. ADHD itself is a foundational disorder. Not treating ADHD is associated with huge negative outcomes. But it's so easy to conflate the risk of ADHD to the medication. But really, the medication is a risk mitigation strategy, much like a seatbelt in a car crash. The car crash is the risky event. The seatbelt is protective. But people get broken bones and occasionally harm from a seatbelt. But overall, it's a risk mitigation strategy, and the risk is the crash. So New South Wales Health, after the Henry review, and also increasingly with the big, there's been a lot of advocacy in all areas of the community, including from paediatricians, patients, GPs, nurses. It's kind of everywhere, you've probably noticed. And there's been a big shift in management from New South Wales. So what they've done is they have really, and it's to reflect actually the efficacy and safety and reality of psychostimulants. So I guess it was status quo for a while, but now they're getting a bit more involved. So they really reduced their clinical involvement. They kind of trust clinicians to act. Just because you can prescribe something doesn't mean you do. Then getting clinically involved isn't, it kind of undersells what processes are already in place. It really relies a lot more on scope of practice. So for example, because they're not saying that paediatricians can't prescribe, can potentially prescribe for older people psychostimulant, doesn't mean that they will. It still needs, they need to consider their own personal scope of practice. Because there is a foundation of training and legal processes. It's not just a free-for-all. Without this, there is lots of systems already in place, and those systems are deemed sufficient to match the risk. But they haven't changed who can diagnose, because diagnosis is tricky, and I guess that's something you can get wrong. So yeah. So they've maintained the diagnostic restrictions by who can initiate and kind of oversee, and maintained the risk management systems for abuse and diversion. And what do you know? I'm sure all of you do, that GPs are experts at managing abuse and diversion risk. So, yeah. All right, so the Henry review, systems overwhelmed, legislation and policy changes. Yeah, it was just so difficult for people to get seen. Clinics, hopefully we're one of many. And GP co-management, this is a huge piece of the puzzle. So I'm going to talk about something that I call the 3Ds. Who's going to be eligible? I'm calling it the 3Ds. And basically, if these conditions are met, then, and also obviously if the specialist would like to co-manage and you want to co-manage, so it's about the agreement. Diagnosis, is it ADHD? So for example, currently it's not for traumatic brain injury. I've heard that they're looking at other group directives in the future, but for the moment it's ADHD. Is the dose less than the maximum? So they got rid of the weight restrictions. Once again, doesn't mean a free-for-all. It's really consider the patient scope of practice and all of that. But is the dose less than these that you can see on your screen? And this is not linked. Remember, this is state-based. This is the law. This is not about Medicare. They are separate systems. What Medicare will subsidise is a separate issue to what is legal for you to prescribe. Is the patient drug dependent? If those 3D criteria are met, then you can co-manage with a specialist. You can actually have combination treatment as well, but once again, you need to think about whether that's clinically the right thing to do, and the paediatrician certainly, and you guys need to do a once-a-year application. A specialist, if those criteria are met, is exempt from doing the application. Okay. So a quick note, this gets a bit confused, so I'm going to try and say it. I hope this should make sense, but anyway. So the authority number is like Medicare, that's federal, and it's to do with money. So that is like on your green script, using PRODA or whatever, that's what your authority number is. The approval number, which used to confusingly be called the authority number, but they've changed it, which is good, still gets confused though. That's from New South Wales. That is state-based, that you need to write that on the script. That is a legal requirement, and that's why paediatricians or other specialists need to write their version. And that is about the law. Are you legal? That is meeting your legal requirements. That is showing that it is basically the enactment of these risk strategies that we're talking about. And you need both, which is a bit of a bummer because they're two separate systems, but also they serve different functions. So, yeah. SafeScript. I imagine you've all heard about it, so I won't go into it too much, but it's a big tool to assist managing abuse and diversion risk. It's operated at a state level as well. It's not mandatory. So if you look at SafeScript, it won't cover literally every single pharmacy or prescriber. It doesn't cover scripts written, for example, in a hospital setting, because the software is not linked. It should be ideally used to have conversations with patients and as a therapeutic tool. So basically not about stopping access to treatment, but improving access if it's appropriate. And now you can use it to apply for your New South Wales approval. You can also see approvals already given for a given patient. So a couple of quick tips. This is an algorithm based. It's based on the 3 Ds. So is the dose, if you meet the algorithm criteria, then it's approved, basically. That's a bit of a simplification, but it's a computer, it's smart, but it's not that smart. So you need to link yourself to the practice. And the first time that you do an application, there's a back kind of function process where SafeScript checks, are you the doctor? Is that the patient? Is the drug the right drug? Is all the date of birth, all of that kind of stuff. So it doesn't happen straight away, but you'll see this little symbol when that has happened. And then after that, application should happen in real time if the criteria of the algorithm are met. If your practice isn't linked, for example, you won't meet the criteria and you do not pass go. Computer says no. It gets sent to the PRU, it adds delays. And also other people in your practice can see for holidays. And we're here to support people in using the SafeScript application process as well. So Tracy and I are more than willing for people in co-management to have a Teams meeting. Okay, but there's also, if you look online, lots of FAQs and a helpline. So there's lots of support. We're not saying it's perfect, but we're saying it's so this is the paper system. I don't know how many of you guys were using that. I don't want to speak badly about it, but it's not a particularly easy system. It's a lot easier than it was. So we don't recommend it. You can use it, but we're here to support you get onto SafeScript, even while acknowledging there are some issues. I'm here as well to be able to feed back systems issues. So I'm just going to leave the wording here and give you a minute to read about co-management, from New South Wales Health, because I don't want to paraphrase them. And you'll have a copy of this as well. So basically it's established by APRA registered specialists. But it is about the agreement between you two. Then at the end is, so when a patient's discharged from paediatrics, there's a transfer of care potentially to the GP, and that's what's happening in our service. And so that, I'll show a letter in a minute, example. And we'll send the slides out as well. So here's an example, just so I think it would make a bit more sense if you see just a written example from one of our paediatricians about what that sounds like and looks like in reality. Is that enough time? Yeah. 5 minutes? Yeah, lovely. Okay, so I'm guessing you guys want to go on holidays generally. So, and God bless, we've had some GPs who are like, arranging scripts from their holidays. Like, just the commitment and altruism is just, it's like really something. So quickly we'll cover what that is. So if you are linked once again in Safe Script, then all the GPs in your practice can see your approval, and they can use it if you're not available, be it planned or unplanned, as happens in life. But they need to be a GP from the same physical space and practice. So like a locum coming in or another GP from that building or that address. So the prescription can be until the next appointment. It doesn't necessarily have to be till the usual prescriber is back. Like if it's a 6-monthly script, then and the criteria as per the approval that you'll be able to read and see. If that person is going on extended leave, then basically you'd be encouraged for that previous application to get cancelled and then somebody else from the practice take over. There has been on SafeScript, when people have used this kind of locum arrangement, an approval that looks and sounds quite grim, and so I'll just talk about it quickly, which is doesn't really reflect that the person we've liaised with. We think that the wording on this is going to get changed, but if you see this alert, you're not doing the wrong thing if you're prescribing for someone in your practice who's on leave, and just give us a call. So we're in the process of trying to get that kind of changed, but just to let you know, if you do see that, you're not doing the wrong thing. Okay, we've also got a fact sheet because we appreciate some of you here might not have kids in co-management with our service per se, but you don't need us. Like, we don't create the laws or the policies or anything like that. We're here to kind of support you guys. But we've got a fact sheet for private clinicians because we get a few questions as well around it. And then also, always the New South Wales Health website has a lot of information and is the go-to resource. It's the OG, and as well as SafeScript. But we're happy to try and help translate if you're struggling with that. Just super quick. ADHD, you can't really talk about it without this really hidden disability. So you talk about, you know, if you're deaf, you can't hear. With ADHD, executive dysfunction is huge, and that's somebody's ability to plan and organise. And they talk about the ADHD tax as well, which, so multiple patients in the family might have ADHD. In fact, it's highly genetic and often do. So you have your cumulative burden of basically costs, but also organisational challenges. It's financial and emotional issues, and patients with ADHD generally are quite overwhelmed. It's because the logistics of sorting stuff out is very difficult. We'll cover this in the second talk. We're not going to go into that. But just to say that even financially, the Deloitte's is an economic cost of ADHD, reckon it's about $25,000 per person per year with ADHD. This isn't a nothing thing in people choosing to be naughty or just forgetting. There's a huge stigma around ADHD. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague on that note, Tracy. Here you go.
Good evening to you all. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to just get a little bit of a recap on co-management, or an introduction if you haven't heard about co-management for ADHD children before. So my role, I'm the coordinator for the co-management team for the service, and my role, number one, is to support the GP, support the families, and support the paediatricians. This has been really our big change, I think, since coming on board. There was too many moving pieces in the previous one, and people didn't feel they had the support of our service as such. Number two, we have really streamlined those processes. We have tried to make it a really simple, supportive, way to look after children with ADHD. My job introducing co-management to the family. So when I get the referral from the paediatrician to say that this child's now stable on their medication and they're happy for the children to go into co-management, I contact the families, have a conversation with the families and get them to have an understanding of what co-management is. Is it going to work for their family? Every family I have spoken to is really keen for this, as a lot of the time their appointments with a paediatrician, it's like in the middle of the day, on a day that they work, the child's at school and things like that. So logistically, for them to be able to make the appointment with their GP on an afternoon that suits, they don't have to have time off work. It's not so financially, it's working for them. And even if GPs are not bulk billing these children, the families still have been really keen to go co-management because it gives that continuity of care for these families also, as I'm not sure a lot of our paediatricians don't always get to see the children, and so they're telling their story over and over again. So GPs being that core, that continuity of care really helps these families. And we're here to support and introduce co-management, as I said, to the GPs. So hopefully we've built some carrots for everyone involved. For the paediatricians, we're opening more initial appointments for them to diagnose or see these children. For the GP, as I said, we are there to support them, but also we offer a multidisciplinary team case conference, which is billable through Medicare, that Penny and myself will come out or do a face-to-face initial consult with you in regards to that child and set you up with SafeScript if you haven't been involved with SafeScript before, and just be there to support. And for the families, them having our phone number to ring when they have a concern, so they know just ring us and then we'll point you in the right direction. So nice little bunch of carrots there, hopefully for everyone. We have our pharmacist Penny. She's on board 5 days a fortnight. She's instrumental in getting some changes in these legislations and moving forward for co-management, and a real advocate for this. She's here for advice, any advice in to do with medication. Give Penny a call, don't call me, I'll pass you on to Penny. Inquiries, like we said, legislation and policies translation. She's our SafeScript representative. She's on the committee, advisory committee. So any feedback that you have, something's not working or not quite sure, give us a call. And if we can't help, Penny will definitely feed that back to SafeScript.
Clinical user group, I don't think.
Oh, clinical, sorry. And any issues, she advocates to the pharmaceutical regulatory unit for us. I think that's Penny's little picture of me down there. Normally the first point of contact, I field the inquiries. So like I said, I'll point you in the right direction or the family in the right direction. If we need to contact the paediatrician, that's what I'm here for, or our team, Penny or myself are here for, just to hopefully alleviate anxiety in some families. They're like really unsure of where to go to next. They give us a call, we can point them in the right direction. We're here, as Penny said, to support executive function. We liaise with the paediatricians for you. So we're not just a faceless big system. We're here, feet on the ground, doing the work, supporting when required, or in the background, supporting constantly, actually, just to make sure things are running smoothly. We provide fact sheets, as Penny said. We give education. We can give education to GP practices. We've been doing a few of these of late, just a quick 20-minute, half an hour face-to-face with your practice, and just filling in some gaps about co-management and answering any questions. And we're trying to really break that mold of the old ADHD, where the specialist is the only person that can prescribe, and support the co-management in children, as it is the future. We just can't keep it being a specialised service. So with onboarding and ongoing support for the GP, we, as I said, we offer that multidisciplinary case conference, and that can be face-to-face. It's a long appointment, it's 40 minutes, it's Medicare billable, and we organise that through your admin and just support and make sure you're set up in SafeScript if that's where you want to go. You know about the children, what's been happening over the past. We have their letters for you and from the paediatrician, and we can go through that and support the application for approval to prescribe. We're ongoing, we're here. You've got your training wheels on if you've never done this before, but I'm sure you have, because co-management in GPs is in lots of areas. It's new for ADHD children. However, I'm sure you co-manage a lot of other areas. So it is just, we're just late to come, ADHD, but we're here now. So hopefully these training wheels don't need to be on for very long, but if they are, that's as long as you need us, we are here, and we'll always, whenever you need us, I'm here 4 days a week, and other team members are here that can also help. As we spoke about, executive functioning support, we're trying really hard to build that in for our families. So we're in the background keeping an eye on checking scripts aren't expiring, or just sending that message to say they are going to expire. Checking GP approvals have come through. If it's the first time, just making sure you've got your approval through, so when the child comes through the door, you aren't going, oh shitters, I haven't even looked at that. But that's when at the MDT case conference, Penny and I really try hard to get that done for you, so it's there and you're ready to go. We make sure the children have got their follow-up appointments with the paediatrician. If it was 12 months, 18 months, we make sure that's being booked, so they're not falling through the gaps. As I said, reminder texts, emails to families offering this support, and just being here on the other end of the line when they give us a call and showing the support. We're kind, we're understanding, and we're here to help them. And from your point of view, we do ask you to offer a little bit of that executive functioning support also. That is when they're leaving after their 6-month review, because that's what they'll do with you every 6 months, see you. We ask you to get them to book in their next 6-month appointment, and you understand all that, and reminder text, which your systems all do. So that's already kind of built in, but it's just something that we remind them that's what's going to happen. So the H&E Kids ADHD model of care for co-management is a 6-monthly GP review. So at that 6-monthly GP review, you get your height, weight, and blood pressure done, the children do. If they're within limits, no, okay, contact our team. We'll be in contact with the paediatrician to see what we need to do. If it's yes, does the dose change need? Is there a dosage change needed, or other guidance? No, yes, it's covered in the agreement of the letter. Check your letter that you got from this reporting from the paediatrician. If it's covered, if it's not, contact us and we'll get it sorted. If it is, or if there's no dose change needed, are you covered by your approval, New South Wales Health? So have you got your approval number? No? Apply via SafeScript. Back with New South Wales Health, yes. You can prescribe the stimulant. And once you've got your approval number, that's for, as Penny said, 12 months. And once you've done that first one, if it's through SafeScript, the next one should be real time. So you should be able to, and it pre-fills everything once you've done it that first time. So then we get you, as they're walking out the door, to get booked for the 6 months next review. And then once a year, we get you to do a re-referral form back to us, which we go through that at our MDT case conference. We talk to your practice manager and get them to add it to your practice software. And but we also, if we haven't got it, we at the moment, well, we've got a little bit of capacity, we will send that, and just a reminder to get you to fill that out for us before they have their paediatrician appointment. And that's just for the paediatrician to know what's clinically happened in the past year if they haven't seen them, or 18 months, but also the re-referral back to our service. So in the background, there's the co-management team coordinating our pharmacists and our admin, and then every 12 to 18 months roughly, or as needed, the clinical picture is when they'll see the paediatrician. So this is what the GP to paediatrician communication and re-referral looks like. It's very quick, just a PDF, fill it in, just any anything that you want the paediatrician to know, because it's not something that you normally do after you referred them on. But because you're in that co-management role now, we ask you to fill this out to give them, and it is also access the re-referral. As I think Elke mentioned, we have updated the community health pathways. All this information is on there. Our phone number, our email address is on it numerous times. So any questions, pick up the phone, ask the question. That's what we're here to support you. Lots of links to education and as medication, safe script. It looks like this when you click, when you're looking for it. If you do your ADHD co-management, this is what will come up, and then you can access it. So I suppose my takeaway today for GPs would be that co-management, it's an individual agreement with the specialist and the GP based on the clinical picture. So whatever that paediatrician or specialist that is supporting co-management, they have to have that information in there, or we'll go back to them and ask what you want to, what you're happy to support with. So you've got that support. Oops, the minimum model. Our minimum model is just this little thing on the right here, and it's just that every 6 months you will see them, you will do a review, you will provide a script if required, you will record weight, height and BP, and you'll ensure the next 6-month review appointment is made. Every 12 months, you have to reapply for your approval number through SafeScript. We recommend that you, when you are applying for your approval number and you're putting in the medication dose, if the paediatrician has recommended their child's on 20 milligrams and they are happy for it to be increased to 30 milligrams of Ritalin over the year or 18 months, make sure you apply for that. You can even go a little bit further, like up, and apply. So then you don't have to reapply if there has been some changes and you've we need to increase that dosage. If you've got that PRU, are happy for you to apply for more. However, you just prescribe in whatever support you've got from your specialist. But if there's changes, we get another letter from the paediatrician and they're happy for it to be increased. Save you having to reapply again within that year, you've got that wriggle to change. So as I said, that's our minimum, what we recommend. And we need you. We need the GPs. The family need you. Continuity of care. It improves access to treatments. Families are very thankful. When I talk to families in regards to being in co-management and involved, and you'll see a few little snips later of some feedback we've had, they're very thankful that they can go to the GPs for this. Support breaking the mold, as we said, the 6-month review with the GP, not the specialist. And it does free up those appointments, those initial consult appointments for the paediatricians. So children that keep coming back to you, waiting to be assessed, hopefully will get assessed a lot quicker than previously when the paediatricians had to see all their current ADHD children to prescribe their medication every 6 months. Specialist intervention and oversight. The child remains under the care of the treating specialist. So once you take on co-management, don't think that no longer they're involved, the specialists, they are here. That's co-management, as the words are saying. So you don't have to do a new referral. You do your re-referral, which you do every year for a specialist, but you don't do a new referral and send it off to the outpatient pediatrics in your area. You contact our service and we will contact the paediatrician and get them in quicker if we need to, or it might be just a telephone consult, but they're definitely still under the care of that treating specialist until they age out, and that's where transfer of care can come into play. So co-management team, at the moment, the faces of the co-management team you've seen, Penny and myself, and we're the safety net and we are here to help. So please, anytime you've got a question, query, pick up the phone, send us an email, and we will do our absolute best to help you. And thank you so much for your time. I'm going to pass you back over to Elke, and she's just going to finalise the last little bit for us.
Thanks, Trax.
So this is just our last slide, and it's just a summary, just to say that the ADHD and the co-management service, in context of the Henry review, has been put in place. So patients with ADHD can be seen and supported, and it can open up the general paediatric outpatient system, so new referrals can be seen, given the prevalence of ADHD and the significance it's having on these kids' lives and also the community. And then the policies and legislations that are playing the catch-up, so the system reflects the actual risk and is consistent with the medication safety management systems and what Penny was talking about. And overall, with the psychostimulants to manage ADHD, that they're safe, they're effective, and they mitigate the risk of the non-treatment, the significant harm that can come from these children's of years of non-treatment of their ADHD. And in regards to the co-management, we want you to know that ADHD and the system needs GPs for it to work. We want to make it as easy as possible. We want you to know that the co-management team is here, and it's going to be part of the future to allow those systems to loosen up and for these patients to be supported, and that the co-management team is here to support you, any questions. And I can assure you, Penny and Tracy have had all types of questions. They're the world's best problem solvers, to be honest. I've never met anyone like them. And that probably reflects in their presentation today. And they're happy to hear, because I'm speaking for them now, but actually they're both learning, as well as myself, because this is a new space. And your feedback and the things that your experience in co-management is really important, so we all learn, to be honest. So I think that's, we've got one last slide of, you know, have a read about some of our feedback from our patients. But we've had we're getting a lot of really good feedback about co-management. So yeah, you can have a read. And I think that's it.
Yes.
Questions?
Great. So over to Jenny.
Thank you so much, ladies. That was excellent. We actually haven't had any questions come through. We have had one comment. GPs are specialists in general practice, and absolutely they are. And I know that we're all very grateful for their expertise and their care. We haven't had any other questions come through. So we might just finish up for tonight. Don't forget this session will be uploaded to our library on our website over the next few days, and we will put a PDF copy of the slides as well. If you do think of something that you would like to know, please just send the education team an email and we can forward it on to Penelope or Tracy or Elkie. Thank you very much for your time tonight, and I'll see you next time.
And we think GPs are fab too. Yeah, we're definitely specialists. We agree. And
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good night.